Hello, I'm Erin J. Doyle. Welcome to my channel. Apologies for my absence for the last couple of weeks. I've had some chaos. And also for the probably inconsistent lighting. I am currently dependent on the sun and there are some clouds, so every now and then it's beautiful and bright and then it just goes all dull again. So we're just going to have to accept that and move on. The reason for my absence, you might think is PhD related, but it's actually more household related and out of my control. Now that I'm living with another person, obviously I have to figure out times to film around them. I'm never gonna ask other people to like be quiet or, you know, not do what it is that they're doing with their time in their home just so I can film. Like, to me, social media must never interfere with day-to-day life. So at the moment the person that I'm living with is around a little bit more in the house than they were when I first moved in, and I'm too awkward to film when they're home, so that has caused a bit of a planning issue, and I anticipate that issue to be ongoing. So I realised that there's one day every couple of weeks where they work from the office instead of from home, and it's quite convenient for me to work from home on that same day because I have online meetings. So there's one day every 2 weeks at max where, at least in the afternoon, there's a time where I finish uni and before she comes home and the sun is still out, where I could potentially film using natural light. But because it's kind of infrequent, and it's going to become even less frequent once I start doing field work, which may occasionally overlap with that one day, it's going to be difficult. And it means that I have to be prepared when that day comes to sit down and bulk film. But the issue is that because I don't have a lot of time to do stuff that's relevant to my channel, I don't necessarily have multiple videos worth of content ready to go when that one day appears. So even if I know with great confidence that nothing is going to come up on that day to interfere, which I cannot guarantee because it involves another person not making any changes to their schedule, yeah, it's difficult to figure out when I can film and also have content to bulk film. So I'm thinking I need to be more organized than I have ever been, or just get over myself and learn how to film when there is another person in the house, even though that other person has every right to be like walking through the room, using appliances, you know, whistling, singing to herself. And it's all fine, and I'm not like going, how dare they make noise? Like, it's cool, that's them living their life. But if I want to film while they're home, those are things that are going to happen and that I'm never going to ask them not to do because priorities. Or I need to, instead of trying to make kind of longer bits of, you know, continuously filmed footage with sit down talky blah blah like this, I need to just be constantly prepared to like switch the camera on and do little tiny moments here and there and cobble together a vlog. But to do that every week, that's a lot of commitment for constantly getting the camera out and filming stuff in order to get little bits, and also it's a big commitment for filming. And I've never been much of a vlog creator. I've made vlogs, but it's usually for a brief period. Like a few years ago I did 10k days every day for the first week of NaNoWriMo to try and hit my goal within a week, which I achieved. And I vlogged that, so I was writing about 10,000 words a day and putting out a video every day. But like that was a 1 week insanity thing. That's not something I can do regularly. And yes, we're talking a difference of daily versus weekly vlogs, but like it's still a lot of filming and a lot of editing, and I'm not quite sure that I want to commit to that, or that it would even be feasible realistically. So yeah, I just have to try and figure out how I'm going to continue putting out content, because it's proving to be a little bit trickier as time goes on, and I don't anticipate it's going to get any easier, especially with moving from the reading stuff and planning stage of the thesis and into the actually going out into the field and collecting sample side of it, because I've decided, I think, on what one of my projects within my thesis will be, because obviously a thesis for a PhD is multiple projects that kind of all complement each other. One of them is going to be high frequency sampling. So I'm going to have field work on like a rotating cycle thing, where that field work could land on any day of the week. Yeah, and that's gonna really affect what time I can film. And that's why I'm like, well, I can't guarantee that just because I know there's a day every week where my landlady is in the office instead of home, that doesn't mean I'm going to be available to film. So trickinesses in every direction. Don't know what to do. Like, do I just say, I don't know, commit for the next week that this week I'm going to make a vlog and we'll revisit this next week and see how I feel? Already that feels like too much of a commitment. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what's going on. And before my battery runs out, because it is starting to threaten, tiny update on the Portal Fantasy. Words have appeared on paper. I have gone from planning to writing. I'm not convinced that this was the right move. Like, I still don't feel like I've got it like perfectly planned, but words have appeared. And I've realized that I never really decided where my character lives. And it's kind of not the biggest deal ever, because as with Portal Fantasy, she changes location in chapter 2. It's just for chapter 1 I need to know like where she is so I can describe it properly. And then the end of that chapter, which is all like setting the scene of this is her normal everyday life, and then oh no, something happened, and then into chapter 2 off to have an adventure in a different location. But yeah, I realized I never made a plan about where she actually lives in chapter 1, and this is a multiverse situation, so it's not just does she live in country A or country B, it's like, does country A even exist? And does she live in a completely like Earth world, or a slightly different from Earth? Like, is there maybe 3 moons? Or, you know, I was about to throw out the arbitrary example of maybe America is an evil Nazi regime, and then I was like, well, that wasn't make-believe, was it? But, you know, a country that she lives in could have a dramatically different political system than it does. Or maybe she lives in something that is actually very slightly fantasy. Doesn't really matter. I don't think she needs to live in a fantasy world. But I think she needs to live somewhere, initially I was thinking she needs to live somewhere that's very recognisably Earth, and other than that, it doesn't really need to be special. I don't think it needs to be magical. I think it's more impactful if she goes from like, wow, it's getting dark in here. Sorry, it's getting grainy even now. Shoot, I'll have to quickly wrap this up. So she needs to go from somewhere that's really normal, no magic, and then she's going to travel to a place where there is magic and learn magic and have an adventure-y thing. But for plot reasons, she must never have heard of anime. And so I'm like, well, does this mean that she was raised somewhere super sheltered and never exposed to like TV? Or does it mean that perhaps she's from a version of Earth where anime doesn't exist? But I feel like, I mean, anime just means Japanese animation. So I'm like, does that mean Japan doesn't exist? And like I can't make up my mind. I do feel though that I can't just be like, oh, she's sheltered, because she's a lawyer. So even if she grew up in a really conservative, no TV is evil kind of place, she would have gone to university and been exposed to stuff. So I don't think it's reasonable to just be like, oh, she doesn't watch TV, because it's not just that she's not super familiar with anime, it's like she has to have no knowledge of it existing at all. So yeah, I just have to figure out, yeah, like where is she from? Why does anime not exist to her? Is it like, was TV never invented in her universe? That would like fix that problem immediately. Is it that she lives outside of Japan, and either Japan or the country that she's in has like super strict like communication or importation rules, so anime just hasn't made it into her country and she's never been exposed to it? Like, not quite sure. Like, all of these options could work as long as she doesn't know what anime is for a valid reason. And I never really settled on what that reason was, and now I've started to write chapter 1 where that reason kind of needs to be established. I don't know. But nonetheless, chapter 1 has a vague sort of, yeah, this is the vibe, and then I've kind of just let that sit and then moved on to chapter 2, because realistically chapter 1 will get rewritten many times as I move through the story and kind of figure out what needs to be discussed there in more detail or what shouldn't be there after all, and that kind of thing. So to me, chapter 1 is okay being the barest of bones, and then whee on to chapter 2, which is more fun, but also kind of where the more important stuff is happening. Chapter 1's just kind of establishing like skill set and knowledge kind of thing. So yeah, that's where we're up to. And now I have to quickly stop filming because I can see that it's getting all grainy back here, and I don't think it's going to get any sunnier. The sun is sinking, so I shall away. I wish I hadn't said that, but I don't have time to refilm. So I'm going to see about what I can do going forward in terms of managing my time and stuff, and we're just gonna see what happens. Maybe I'll try that vlogging idea, but we're not holding our breath because, oh, that's tricky. And one way or another, I will see you again at some point. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you want to see me again at some point. I don't know when. Yeah, bye, I guess.